Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump from the deep end of the pool, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. 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 She looks amazing. She's just over here self-conscious, overthinking the whole damn thing. Testicles 1, 2. Testicles. Welcome back to Paranoid Radio Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Trebles Garcia, your humble host. I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to remind you also that the most important thing that you could do for the show is word of mouth. Check us out at paranoidradio.com and check out the affiliations with Flavors of the Forest. That is Bigfoot raising and also grazing and growing a bunch of garlic dust in his backyard, putting it in little bottles, and then selling it to you for your food. Do not forget to season your meat before you eat with Flavors of the Forest and get 15% on your checkout using Paranoid. Coupon Paranoid. That's right. You can check all of those links also with mental health and with Dr. Natalie Atwell on paranoidradio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, enough of the promotion. Do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Let's jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the mood. Today, I have an amazing episode lined up because I have an amazing special guest. She got me nervous because she was like, "What the hell am I going to look like? Oh, my God." I'm like, oh, man, she's a freaking diva. But it's amazing because we never had one of her energy, one of hers. And you know what? She is very intriguing. If you guys go check her out on Instagram, you'll see all I'm talking about. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Chanel from BigFootBytes on Instagram. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time. Before anything, I want you to let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, BigFootBytes, and Bytes is spelled B-Y-T-E-S. Or you can also find me over on TikTok at Cluephoria, Cluephoria, Cluephoria. I do a little bit of fan fiction, a little bit of nerdy Bigfoot stuff. I'm also on Facebook, but that's mostly just kind of like my friends and family. So you can just usually check me out on Instagram or TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok, please, ladies and gentlemen, check her out. Again, it's a privilege to have you on the show. I usually don't start off that fast or start it that much, but you got me nervous. But let's loosen up and let's get some conversations here going. Let's get some storytelling. The reason I hit you up was because, first of all, I didn't see you interacting enough with podcasters and people within your community that podcast, and I really want to bring your information to a wider scale of audience. You had some encounters that you not only witnessed but also recorded and then published on Instagram. What was one of the most intriguing, one of the most, I want to say, intense interactions you had in the woods? I know you're also a Bigfoot enthusiast, so this is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I was not a Bigfoot fanatic or I didn't care about Bigfoot at all. All of a sudden, one day, Bigfoot just came up to me and my cousin and whooped at us. And it was like from then on, I was completely and utterly fascinated. And I just started doing as much research as I possibly could. First, it was just like the research online, finding other people in the Bigfoot community that had been through what I had been through and just kind of sharing stories. But then my obsession grew once I moved to Washington State into like a boots on the ground research endeavor. And me and my buddy Kevin would go out looking for Bigfoot, like actively going out on some of these super remote back roads way deep in the wilderness. Like, you know, Washington State is just unbelievable rainforest. And there were just so many situations where like we were out in some pretty dangerous terrain. Like there's mountain lions, there's bears, there's moose, you know, and we were going in the dead of night. And sometimes because it rains so heavy, there's like landslides. And so it was really risky. So we always had like a really great safety plan. We always let friends and family know where we were going. And what's really heartbreaking is right now in the news, there was actually a couple of guys who just recently died looking for Sasquatch. So I always try to preface everything by telling everybody like what we did was dangerous and it's not for the faint of heart. And it's not, you don't just go out looking for Bigfoot for fun without having like absolute life-saving supplies and personal locator beacon. Let your friends and family know where you're going. Bring two vehicles in case a vehicle breaks down. Check the weather. I mean, there's just so many ways in which I felt I was really prepared to do this boots on the ground research because I was already such an outdoorsy person and I've grown up hiking in the wilderness since I was a kid. So I know how serious things can get, and I know you can get caught in storms. So let me just preface all this by saying, like, I don't suggest anyone go out and do what I did for 3 years because it's incredibly dangerous. And then let's say you beat all the elements and nothing goes wrong and everything goes smoothly. You can have an encounter with Bigfoot where they're aggressive, dangerous, terrifying creatures that we pretty much know nothing about. And I researched these guys for 5 years and I still have more questions and answers. And so you asked me, like, what was the most intense moment that I had? And it was when I got that recording on my Instagram. It's hard to see anything because what we would do is we would park in certain areas and we would turn off the vehicle so we could hear better. And we would turn off all the lights because apparently Bigfoot, don't like it when you just shine lights in their face and stuff. And it's better when you can kind of go with like sneaky tactics. And so we were just parked next to this river, which is unfortunate because if we weren't next to a huge raging river, the recording would have been way better. But we were parked next to a river and all of a sudden, and this was after like 800 hours of being out in the field. Like we were out in the field forever, over and over and over, night after night, weekend after weekend, sometimes on work nights. But we were out there for so long. And then finally, all of a sudden, we hear this blood-curdling screaming and growling and these gurgling, terrifying sounds that just sounded like a monster. It almost sounded like a massive version of a bear growling over and over. But then there was like three creatures. So we could hear one that sounded like a bear that was kind of like over and over, like repeatedly. But it was just this deep, deep, terrifying growl. And that was the first thing that I was like, what the heck was that? And then next thing you know, we're hearing screaming. And the screaming sounded like a human man, but it sounded like a larger, like a giant human man. And it was blood-curdling screaming as if this man was being ripped limb from limb. And so in the video, you can hear me being terrified. I was about to faint. I genuinely thought that these were giant monsters who were coming to kill us. And I almost fainted. I was like from head to toe, I was paralyzed. All you can hear in the video is me saying like, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, because I thought they were coming for us. And it was just, I don't know how to describe it other than the most terrifying thing I've ever gone through in my life. And for some reason, I'm so crazy. I went back. We kept going back like over and over.
Chanel, hold your horses. I'm not about to just let you skip over the part you said. We're going to come back to all of this. You said a Bigfoot just came up to you and your cousin when you were kids?
No, actually, it was when we were adults. It's been almost 5 years now. It was like 4.5 years ago. And we were just outside. Like I had this little area outside underneath a tree where I had like string lights under the tree. And it was like this table where I made dinner for us. And we were just outside, like enjoying a beautiful dinner out in the summer night. And this was in Placerville, California. So Lake Tahoe has a ton of wildlife, but Placerville is just down the mountain from Lake Tahoe. And for some reason, there's like even more wildlife just down the mountain. You'd think that up in the mountain, you'd see more, but for some reason down in Placerville, I guess the climate is just right for like a plethora of animals. I mean, we had wild peacocks, turkeys, fox, mountain lions, bears, just you name it, like everything. But anyways, we were just sitting out there enjoying dinner. And like me and my cousin, we're total goofballs. So we were like taking a bunch of funny pictures, but we were like climbing the tree and like taking these goofy pictures, climbing trees. And so that's the only thing I can think that made this Bigfoot maybe be curious about us, because we were being goofy, we were being loud, we were laughing, we were listening to music. And a lot of people say when they have their Bigfoot encounters that they're kind of like out in a wilderness area where they're being loud, and maybe that's what attracts them. I don't know. But all of a sudden we're just sitting there and we start to hear something like maybe 20 feet away. And
Mhm.
we were like, what was that? You know, like we thought we heard something strange. And granted, there's a ton of animals in this area. So at first we're thinking maybe it's a bird. Maybe we're hearing a peacock because peacocks make crazy sounds, you know, sometimes in the middle of the night. But then all of a sudden it turned into this like extremely loud. Here's the thing. When a human being, and I studied opera, when a human being lets out their loudest belt, imagine a human scream, only amplify it times 10. It sounds like it's coming from a bigger body cavity. It's piercingly loud. And it was a whoop. It was like an ape or like a monkey had escaped from the zoo and came up and just whooped at us. And I was just
Ha.
like, and so me and my cousin are like very brave women because we've gone camping in the wilderness since we were kids. And my cousin lives in Yosemite National Park. She lives and works in the national park. We're not afraid of bears. We've been false charged by bears. We've dealt with major wildlife before. But this whoop was so out of place and so strange and unfamiliar that it was enough to make us grown, brave women get up and physically run into the house and slam the door.
Whoa. Okay. A lot to unfold. I was not expecting that for you. You came in like a wrecking ball, dude. You're not doing so bad. You're amazing. You're an amazing speaker, dude. Check this out. Okay, I pulled away some notes, mental notes here. Now, people want to debunk this. Going back to the original story where you posted on Instagram, you were in the car, I believe. I heard your voice. And believe it or not, look, bro, sometimes you follow your gut when situations get crazy and you're like, it looks fake, it's not fake, especially now where AI is all over the place, right? It's one of those days. It's now nowadays it's like everybody's pumping things out and you don't know if it's true or not.
Right.
So your voice in that video gave me the chills. The whole scenario because of the darkness, you could see that you were trying to get video, but you were also trying to keep calm and you were like mentally trying to stay focused. That that's what really motivated me to ask you about that scenario. So guys, please go check her out on Instagram. Oh God, you guys are missing out. Talk about surviving because a lot of the people, some people just find that footage after people pass, after people go missing. So
Right.
right. So you are blessed to be here today to tell the story. And then the whoop. Now people want to debunk this with the crows. Crows, I'm not sure where in that in area of the California if they have any of these ravens. I'm pretty sure we don't. However, those ravens, you can hear them do different animal noises and they can mimic human vocal cords better than parrots. And they're extremely smart. So, do you think maybe it was some type of mimicking bird out there trying to spook you?
Absolutely not. And you know, I completely understand skeptics. And the thing about me is I don't need to convince anybody. I'm not out here trying to shove any theories down anybody's throat. If people choose not to believe and they choose to think that I'm crazy, I'm fine with that. That's okay. I don't care because I know what happened and I know the situation that occurred, and that's good enough for me. I don't have to convince anybody else. But let me tell you, I have heard birds, and this was so not a bird. It's not even funny. And but here's, let me back up. The
Hmm.
first time I got whooped at, when my cousin and I were out having dinner in Placerville and we got whooped at,
Hmm.
I gaslit myself into thinking maybe it was a bird. For like a good 6 months, I didn't even tell anybody about the encounter because I was looking up online. I was looking up nocturnal birds because I couldn't wrap my brain around what could possibly make that sound. And I am super familiar with the fact that birds make all kinds of really crazy sounds. So I get where people's mentality could be coming from of the theory that it's a bird. I totally get that because I myself thought that in the beginning. Now,
Hmm.
if that first encounter I had been the only encounter I'd ever had in my life, I might be one of those skeptics that's like, it might have been a bird. It might have just been like
Ah,
some crazy bird. But when Kevin and I, that video where I got the audio recorded,
huh.
that sounded like something out of a movie, like a monster demon animalistic slash human giant, and it reverberated and echoed to the point where Kevin thinks it could have been as far as like 1.5 miles to 2 miles away. So
Whoa.
there's no crow that can make a sound that's so loud that it travels 2 miles away. And a lion's roar, I'm pretty sure a lion's roar can only go about 2 miles. So these sounds that we heard, and I'm telling you, I've heard bobcats and mountain lions, and they make some crazy scream sounds too. Like you can go online and look up bobcats fighting with each other and having like a little standoff. And it sounds like an old witch screaming in the woods. So I
Oh
understand
yeah.
how sometimes people could think, you know, like, oh, it sounded like a screaming woman, but really it was a bobcat. No, 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 no. This thing that I recorded, and the video does not do justice because, again, we were next to a huge river. So you're hearing a lot of like river running water, which sounds like audio like feedback. And also, we have to remember a camera, like a phone, a cell phone, is nothing compared to what our human ears can hear. Our human ears are intelligently and divinely created by God. We are magnificent creatures. There's never going to be a camera that sees and views things as clearly as your eyes. There's never going to be a camera that records audio better than your own ears. So if people could hear in real life with their own ears, auditorily, what we heard,
Mm.
there's no way anyone would think that it's a bobcat or crows or peacocks or anything like that because it was so loud. It was so unbelievably loud that I genuinely don't think, like, there was a while there where I thought that Bigfoot were just like huge apes. I really thought that Bigfoot were like an elusive form of an upright gorilla or
Wow.
the cousin of an ape that was just a really elusive species. But the more that I analyze it and the more I think about what happened that night, I believe I was hit with some kind of infrasound, and
Bam.
I believe these things are like some form of
Oh,
demon
oh,
because
you're,
there's
you're
there's no way it was a real freaking creature. I mean, the sound was, I don't know. I can't put it into words. It was like a demon. It was just so demonically terrifying. Some people say it was a skinwalker because in the audio, it sounds like three different animals at once. And people talk about skinwalkers like imitating other types of animals. But I'll tell you, my mind has changed a lot over time about what these things are because they instill such visceral fear in you that I've been false charged by a bear. I've had a bear get in my face before. That was nothing. I wasn't
that's a
afraid.
big land predator. Yeah.
I wasn't
Uh-huh.
afraid. I wasn't afraid because I knew what I was dealing with. I knew what I was dealing with. When something occurs that your mind and body and spirit cannot explain and cannot understand, it feels demonic. I just don't know how else to put it. Like my mind has just changed.
I would like to amplify that message. Whenever all your five senses are all connected, telling your brain one thing, even fear and anger and adrenaline starts rushing, that's exactly what it is. Don't second guess it because that's your instinct telling you what it is. Now, infrasound it's an important thing because I got to get you connected with um what's his name? Cryptid Warfare. Cryptid Warfare, he's a law enforcer that goes hunting for these things with his military ex-military buddies, and they camp out and they put a perimeter and they wait all night. And he said that he has encountered things throwing pebbles. He has encountered things getting them sick, where vertical hits them through infrasound, and out of nowhere they lose their balance. They want to start puking. Their sensors are dimmed down, and then eventually that's when you die and you go missing. So I have to agree with you. I don't think these things are evolved, and I'm going to throw big quotations. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in this at all, but evolved apes, bipedal apes that look like us or were connected to our ancestors, for example. Hell freaking no.
Right.
Now, Now, what training have you had? It seems like you know your stuff. What training have you had that has helped you survive and have so much courage and be so confident in the wilderness? What can you tell people who start preparing if they want to start, Sasquatch hunting?
I do not suggest being a Sasquatch hunter. You know what? Okay, don't do it because there's many reasons why I could tell you don't do it. So let me just back up. There
Mm.
was a point where I was so steeped in my fascination and my curiosity, and I will admit, in the past, I was an adrenaline junkie. I used to cliff jump, I've paraglided, I've jumped off of cliffs with parachutes, I've swam, with sharks. Like I've done a lot of
Oh,
stuff that is like, I will admit that I had an adrenaline problem. I was an adrenaline junkie. And so I think that's what initially got me to not be afraid to do these things, was because I was already teetering on the edge of like just wanting adrenaline all the time. It's like it's an indescribable high, like there's nothing else like it, like adrenaline. But I think number one, I was going and doing things that were really dangerous. But number two, I think I had like this idea of grandeur and like this naivety about me where I wanted to be like Jane Goodall. Like Jane Goodall is one of the people I look up to so much because she was someone who didn't have a background in any kind of ape studies. Like she didn't know anything before she went out and did that. And so for me, that's what it was like when I went to go do Bigfoot research. I was like, I don't have any prior background, yet I'm getting all these results. I'm getting footprints, I'm getting audio. I've had 3 encounters. And so I kind of started making a lot of videos and stuff like in an educational way of being like, well,
oh
this
yeah.
is what Bigfoot are like. And this is, like I was trying to just do things in sort of a way that could be educational for people because I was trying to share my experiences with people and help them understand things a little bit better. But now, after so much time has gone by, I realize that that was just silly of me because we still don't know. We don't know so much about them. So how could I mislead people or direct people into like an educational pathway when at the end of the day it's all speculation and it's all theory, and I really cannot understand what's going on with the whole thing. So I think now instead of trying to teach people and instead of trying to be educational, now I want to bring more of the truthfulness and the honesty that this is a really dangerous addiction. Not only is it dangerous physically, because yeah, you can be hit with infrasound. I almost passed out. What if I was a crazy person going out and doing this by myself and I've just passed out? Like behind the wheel, just stuff like that. Or what if there's a landslide? Or what if you're out in the dark with no lights on? Because we would go out and trek in the wilderness with no lights on, no flashlight. You can trip and stumble and fall off the edge of a cliff. There's a
Oh
million
gosh.
there's a
Hmm.
million things that could have gone wrong. And
Yeah.
so, and like I said, there's just 2 guys that just lost their life doing this. And so, and also, let's put aside all the physical stuff.
Hmm.
Mentally, it kind of drives you a little bit insane because when you take it as far as I did and you go as far as I did and you still don't have any results and you still don't have any answers, that's maddening. If you study
Whoa.
that, and this is huge. If you take any topic on this planet and study it for 5 years, you will become educated on the topic and it will feel good to know a lot about that topic. But with Bigfoot, you can study it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and still know nothing and have no answers. And it becomes maddening. It becomes frustrating. You get pissed off. Then we have a lot of people who start to get in like competition with each other. They're like in competition for views. They're in competition for who can get the best audio, who can
Bam.
get the
That's the
best,
problem. Yeah.
and it starts to mess with you mentally. So I swear, like, if you listen to my podcast like years ago that I did with Bigfoot Society, I
Hmm.
feel like I'm a whole different person now when I talk about it. Like it's come full circle. So I just try to warn people like, don't bother. Just if it happens to you, cool. It's an incredible experience. It's scary, it's fascinating, but don't go too deep. And then don't even get me started on once you go too deep and you start to find things that you're not supposed to find and things that have to do with the government and Freedom of Information Act and Black Ops,
Here we go.
and things like
Uh-huh.
that, I'm telling you, I was on a freaking watch list and it's not fun.
Chanel, you opened a can of worms now because now I'm gonna come in for that information. Okay, we're about to extend the conversation to another 15 minutes if you're okay with this.
Yeah,
Whoa.
absolutely.
Okay. I don't want to say this to get anybody in trouble. And thank you for being so honest, by the way. Because the way you put out your videos, even on Instagram, it seems like you know what you're doing. Like, oh look, you can see the tracks, you can see where the branches are breaking, and then you start, you dive into like the details of how not hunt, but search for like find guidelines on how to search for Bigfoot. Now, you touched on government. Do you think that these entities are a specimen of, for example, super soldier or experimental projects, experimental or different dimensions? What do you think it is? What have you found?
Yeah, okay, so I don't know for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems like there's a connection with the government. Because here's something like food for thought. We have these
Mm-hmm.
national parks where
Mm-hmm.
thousands of people go missing without a trace.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no deep investigation that's done. It's just kind of like open and close, open shut situation. Someone's gone, we don't know why.
Uh-huh.
Then, if you try to bring up Bigfoot to Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, any official, they're not allowed to talk about it. They're just not allowed to talk about it. It's definitely classified. And I know it's classified because we did several Freedom of Information Act requests and they gave us nothing but a bunch of junk emails. And then they gave us stuff where things were omitted and things were blacked out. There's things that they're definitely not telling us. And
Hmm.
so I started doing research with ChatGPT. Now with AI and the help of AI, it is incredible how much faster you can get research done. So because I wasn't getting any answers from Freedom of Information Act, I wanted to get some answers from ChatGPT of what's going on with the national parks. So here's what's strange to me. The national parks, specifically California, is missing $12 billion of tax money. $12 billion is just unaccounted for. And there are advocacy groups that are fighting this and being like, where's the money and where are the funds going? And why are all of the facilities in the national parks neglected? Why are employees being laid off? Why are none of the facilities in these national parks being updated? If there's billions of dollars of taxpayer money going into these national parks, why are the national parks just not doing anything?
I
And
love that.
not only that, but if you go to a national park, it's like they want to funnel you in and funnel you out. You can only go to certain designated roads and designated campground sites. You can't go explore these national parks. And if they're public land, why is it that every single time we tried to go out on these roads that are beautiful roads, it's not like there's a landslide or a reason that we can't go out on these roads. They're perfectly fine roads, gated off, surveillance, can't go, it's shut down, it's shut down, it's shut down. So it's essentially like there's hundreds of thousands of acres of this forest land that we're not allowed to go into. And then when you start going rogue, like Kevin and I did, we just started saying
Whoa.
screw it. We started driving around the gates. We're like, fuck it, we're going around the gate. That's when I got the audio recording. So we went into a place we weren't supposed to go in.
Oh
We drove,
goodness.
we went rogue because it's public land and it's wrong that they won't let us access it. So we went rogue. All of a sudden we get screamed at and I get hit with almost fainting and the most visceral fear of my entire life. I started thinking to myself, it makes sense that either, like you're saying, these are like super soldiers or, but see, that's a tough theory because the accounts of Bigfoot go back as far as the Native American days. So it's not
Word.
like the government was creating super soldiers back in the Native American days. That's too far
Mhm.
back. But what I think is happening is that these beings, these creatures, these demonic entities are something that the government cannot control. And anything the government can't run a narrative on and anything they can't control, they are going to classify. That's why aliens and UFOs have been classified for so long, because they don't know how to handle it. They don't ever want to come out to the public and be like, well, there's nothing we can do. They're terrifying. They're taking human beings. We don't know how to help you guys. Sorry, that doesn't make the government look too good. So they just
Oh
classify it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I started going deeper into theory. And what makes sense to me is when it comes to weapons testing, let's say the US government wants to test a new type of frequency weapon or something that is completely black ops. They can't do it at Area 51 anymore. Area 51 is old news. There's too much surveillance all over. There's too many satellite surveillance and things going on, and Google Earth and stuff like that, where they would just get caught. If they were doing testing out in the open like that, people would see it. And then
Word.
so they started doing weapons testing out in the oceans. They were like,
Mm.
oh, we've got all this vast open ocean. Well, again, other ships started seeing sonar, it started being picked up. It's almost like the government has started running out of places where they can do weapons testing. What's a brilliant place that's completely shut off from the public, thousands upon thousands of acres of dense forest where you can't do thermal. If you take thermal drones or thermal cameras into these national parks, they don't work for squat. You can't see shit because these trees are so thick and wet and dense that they absorb any heat signature at all whatsoever. So my theory is that the last place that the US government can do weapons testing is in these national parks. And because it's public land, it's technically illegal for them to be doing black operations. And they can't just post up with military guys with guns being like, this place is closed off, because it's supposed to be open to the public. So what do they do in order to deter people? My new theory is that the government replicates Bigfoot and makes fake hoax Bigfoot to terrify people into turning around and driving away. And so it essentially creates a perimeter where people are too terrified to even go in there, and problem solved. They don't even have to do a security detail. All they do is just send out a scary monster to scare you away from the area. Boom, human deterrent, done.
Yo, you're into the theory of the controlled opposition type of thing. I hear you. I hear you. It's not a bad theory, and it makes a lot of sense. I thought you were gonna go with um they try to suppress these animals when they try to open gates. So they try to open portals, these animals escape, and then they try to bring them back. And then sometimes you have, collateral damage, which is us trying to explore. So I thought you were gonna go that route, but whoa. All right, so they try to replicate these animals. Do you think they are old interdimensional?
I don't know about interdimensional. I think they're demonic. I think that they're demonic because when you look in the Bible, and I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. When you look in the Bible, it talks about how Satan's going to find ways to deceive us. And when
Mm.
it comes to like aliens and Bigfoot and Skinwalker and all of these cryptids that terrify people, and people know they're having real experiences, but it's not tangible. You can't get it on film. You can't get any hardcore evidence. To me, that screams what the Bible's talking about and trying to deceive people. And strangely enough, each time I had my encounters, my 3 encounters, it was in a time in my life when I was getting back to my faith. A lot of times my faith can hang by a thread and I start to wonder what's really going on. And a lot of people feel this way, like we're not sure what's really going on this planet and what we're experiencing. And so your faith kind of hangs by a thread. But each time I had a Bigfoot encounter, it was at a time in my life when I was getting back to God. And then all of a sudden, boom, I get this like demonic, terrifying situation happening that distracted me. It got me focusing more on them than on the word of God, than on Bible study.
Holy snap. Look at her go. Hey, you're hitting badass points today. I like to say, now, I'm not a fool. I'm not completely a Bible thumping Christian warrior. Yeah, I'm hanging in by a thread. I think I stopped drinking. I don't watch TV. I don't listen to music like that anymore. So it's kind of like I'm already there basically, right? And I dedicate my shows to Jesus every single day, every single episode. So I feel you. I understand what you're saying. It sometimes you start refocusing your energy and your thoughts and your habits and centering your life around something that's not really going to benefit you in spirit, in a spiritual realm, in a spiritual sense, right? So you're right. I think he is the author of lies, and we do live in his kingdom. And Drewski from Cryptid Warfare Podcast, mad shout outs to that mother trucker. He said, the Bible says, go on and preach the word of Jesus Christ unto all creations on the planet, on earth, all creations. Keyword.
Ah,
You see
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
so, so that to
You know,
me solidified it. Go ahead.
and first of all, amen to that. But
Mm,
if they are real flesh and blood creatures, there is a part in the Bible where it talks about Behemoth and Leviathan, and it talks about how there are some things that as human beings we're just not meant to understand. And I
word.
think that goes back to what I was talking about, how it's kind of maddening because if you try to base Bigfoot on your own human understanding, you will go a little cuckoo because there are some things that are just simply beyond our understanding. Could
Mm.
they be government related? Are they demons? Are they interdimensional? These are things that the human mind can ponder, but we have to be okay with knowing that we might just not ever find out. And sometimes for someone like me who's very matter of fact, and I like knowing and I like solid evidence and I like solid proof and I like being able to experience it in real life so that I know it's real. It was something that I had to grapple with a lot, and it was really hard for me to sit back and just say, you know what? I don't know. And that is so hard because you're having a real experience. I got it on camera. I had witnesses with me every time. It's not like I hallucinated Bigfoot. It's not like I had a hallucination or made things up. They really occurred. So it makes you really want to think that they're flesh and blood because you heard it with your own ears. Or for some people, they saw it with their own eyes. But again, it's one of these things where we can't get any real tangible proof. So we have to just sort of take a step back and let it be one of those things where it's just one of life's great mysteries.
It's always good to have some of those mysteries. How do you think it works? How do you think it keeps us going? Most of us guys, and I'm speaking as for the guy population of in the audience, why is it that we like women in lingerie? Why? We appreciate the woman body more when it's has little bits of it covered up, right? Obviously. So it gets your imagination going. Why is it that we're intrigued with space and the depths of the water? Because it gets your imagination going. We're not meant to see those things. We're not meant to know everything. And using human logic to explain your surroundings and your reality, big quotation marks, it's dull. It's a dull idea because even the Bible says that too. You cannot put human logic on God logic. God logic is it's gonna blow you out of the water, right? So, whoa. Okay. You also told me you have some YouTube stuff. Where can people
Yeah,
find you?
so I was doing a little podcast. Lately I've been so busy with work. I recently started. I'm a nanny, so like when I was doing all this Bigfoot research, it was recreational, like on my off time. But I'm a nanny. I've been a nanny for like 15 years now. I actually just started working for a celebrity, which is really cool. I'm officially a celebrity nanny right now, which is very cool. I feel very blessed. It's really awesome. And I signed an NDA, so I can't talk about who I'm working for. But anyways, I've been so busy with work lately and I've been traveling and just got back from Mexico and the Bahamas. So I have not been able to do any of my podcasts, but I did start a podcast where I wanted it to feel like people were learning with me.
Mm.
The theories that I had and the experiences that I had and the ideas that I had, I wanted to share with everybody really openly because I want people to explore this with me in a way where we can get to the bottom of something and figure out what's really going on here. And personally, the last episode I think I did was me talking about how I believe that the government is replicating whatever these things are and using it as a human deterrent. And what are the things that I can work with? Something I can work with is my tax dollars and where my tax dollars are going. And so it makes me very upset that these national parks where people's tax money is going to supposedly preserve these beautiful forests and preserve these animals and hire staff that are supposed to upkeep with these beautiful areas and keep them clean and pristine, this money is just going missing. $12 billion going missing. And so one of my last episodes in my YouTube, which is also labeled BigFootBytes, BYTES, just like my Instagram, that was one of my last episodes. It's like, what are we going to do about this? Where do we go from here? And how do we create advocacy groups or checks and balances for where our tax money is going? And also, why are the national parks that are public land being hidden from us and we're not allowed to go out there? To
For
me,
her
it's really
safety.
wrong.
It's for our safety, okay?
Well, if we want to assume our own risk, that's on us, right? If
Word.
we want to assume the risk to go out and the juice is worth the squeeze to go out and explore these beautiful areas, which not a lot of people are willing to do, but those of us who want to do it, if it's paid for by my tax dollars, I should be allowed to go. And that's
Bam.
something I think that needs to be looked at.
That is right. That is right. I didn't know it was going to be this fun. I'm really, really happy we got this episode on lockdown. Congratulations on your upscale job. I can only imagine who you're working for, and that's amazing. I'm happy for you. I'm sharing that moment. I'm also happy that, you're alive and you got to experience and tell the testimony, share that video with the world, and I'm excited for what's there to come. I'm excited for your channel, and I'm excited for your life. Keep doing what you're doing. Please, one more time, let the people know where they can find you, and we're closing this episode out.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me so much. It's always super fun talking about this topic, and I love just sharing everything I know about it. So if you do want to check out some of my stuff, it's on Instagram, BigFootBytes. That's Bigfoot, BYTES. Also, Instagram is called BigFootBytes. And then on my TikTok, I have some fan fiction and some of my Bigfoot stuff. It's at Cluephoria, CLUEPHORIA, Cluephoria.
Even the fan fiction stuff is fun to watch because it gets the imagination going, dude. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to check her out on BigFootBytes on Instagram, and also all the links to her socials are going to be in the description of the show. Do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Peace out.
Paranoid Radio.